What's up? What's up? I'm trying to make sure that this is live. We live? Hit up the chat. What up? What up? Am I live? Here we go. What's up, Max B? We good? How is it? Because I made some settings adjustments on OBS. I want to make sure I didn't mess anything up. What's up, Cold Blood? What's good? T. Beckett, what's up? Ramon, ¿cómo está? What's up? Let me know if it's how's it coming through. Before I push through, somebody could just let me know if the sound is good and the stream is good, because I made some. Yeah, what's up, Morgan? Well, it's only 9 o'clock here. I'm in the West Coast. All right, Max B said everything's good. It's only 9 p.m. here. Yeah, different times. Where yeah, I'm in the West Coast. They call it the best coast. I can see why a lot of people like the West Coast, California. I could dig it. It ain't late for me. Might be late for you if you're in the East Coast. Even more so if you're in Europe. I apologize. I feel your pain. All right. But I'm going to make this quick because I understand. You know, I don't want to keep y'all up. Y'all may have work, school. Y'all might be doing some late night gaming. Man, I preach the truth, Johnny Gaming. All right? We got to keep it real. We got to keep it real, you know? How many PC players are there exactly? All right, so good. So everything's crisp. We crispy. Aquí, hermano. You know, I'm about to talk that talk. I just need to know we crispy. Are we crispy? You know? Or is it grand opening, grand closing? Do I need to shut the stream down? Start it up, just shut it down. I just need to know we crispy, because I'm about to talk my talk. All right? And we're going to get over with, right? This ain't going to be no 2-hour podcast. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? This is just me, and we're going to get it through. We're going to hit the bullet points. What prompted me to do this was I was going to do one or two things. All right? Number one, I was going to do a hot take or go live, right? Shout out to Morgan. She said, we crispy. That's it. We crispy. That's all I needed to know, right? Yeah, I'm your only friend in these YouTube streets. You know what I'm saying? It's 24/7. You know, I got y'all backs. All right. But anyway, let me hit it up, right? Because this could really take a long time. But it was a decision between me doing a hot take or going live. And then as I was trying to plan out the hot take, it was going to be a very long video. It was. And at that point, hot takes aren't meant to be more than 10 minutes. I tried to keep it at 10 minutes. There was probably one time I did it more than 10 minutes. It just doesn't go well. I think if I have to do something a little bit longer than 10 minutes, I'm going to just go live, go straight to my points, a little interaction with the chat. You know, maybe I bring up something that you want some clarification on, and I'm going to, you know, do what I do. Okay? So we're going to go right into it. I'm going to do what I do, right? So God of War going to PC in January reignited the conversation of potentially PlayStation games going day and day on PC. Every time a PlayStation 4 game goes on PC, it's going to happen every single time. But this time, it's a little bit different. And I'm going to tell you why. Because this time, we have more information before as compared to the other times when a PlayStation 4 game went on PC. We have more information as compared to when Horizon Zero Dawn went to PC, Days Gone, and so on and so forth. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. If you guys remember, and I will post the video in the description box for any of you who listens to this after the fact, I made a video back in January 2020, a hot take. And I explained how Sony could potentially have one of three strategies moving forward with the PlayStation 5. And to paraphrase, to make it quick, I said the first strategy was they're going to do what they always do. Keep the games exclusive to their ecosystem. Sell the console, blah, blah, blah. Nothing different than what they did with PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4 up in this point. Strategy number 2, or COA. I call the course of action, actually. But, you know, the next COA course of action is day and date with PC, copying the Microsoft strategy. They make games for the PS5, they make games for PC, multiple platforms to play this game day and date. PlayStation is considered an ecosystem and not a specific platform. And then there was Koa 3, which I called the hybrid Koa, the hybrid option, which is Sony takes legacy titles or older titles that were from the PlayStation 4 and older, put them on PC to get an audience that's not on PlayStation console to see what the hype is about, why, PlayStation first party is so highly sought after, give them a taste. And if they like it, they will also now, want to play the new titles that, PlayStation first party makes, and they'll get themselves a PS5. Thus, Sony's angle of enticing gamers that are not currently on the PlayStation platform. Okay, those were the three choices. At that time, I said the third choice, the hybrid choice, is the most likely scenario Sony was going to do, but that was just an assumption and opinion. It wasn't based on any information or fact or data because there was none available. Right? Since then, and we'll talk about Horizon Zero Dawn and especially Days Gone going to PC, especially Days Gone, because that there triggered a lot of faithful fans of the PlayStation brand. Just a lot of people were really upset at Days Gone going to PC. And Jim Ryan took the blame for that, right? Everybody assumed it was Jim Ryan. A lot of people made the assumption that that's probably the main reason why Shawn Layden was fired. Not retired, but fired or quietly removed. Because some people felt Shawn Layden was the last of the old guard that believed in exclusives, believed in the platform and not devaluing the brand. And that Sony is setting up to do what Microsoft's doing, and that's what Jim Ryan's going to do. Fire Jim Ryan, blah, blah, blah. Everybody remembers. You all remember how that panned out, right? Once again, podcasts, various podcasts of different platforms were now signaling saying, yep, Sony's going to do what Microsoft is doing, day and date on PC. This was the vision, stuff like that, okay? And again, this was all based on just simply PlayStation games going on PC, okay? We didn't really have any information. Of course, there was little talks about, like the quarterly financial summits or reviews and, not reviews, but, shareholders meetings, PowerPoints, talking about Sony expanding, stuff like that. So people took a lot of those cues and formulated, ultimately speaking about PlayStation going on PC day and date, pretty much copying Microsoft. But something interesting happened since then, and shout out to Jay Barry and Persona. They have a YouTube channel called What's Up PlayStation. Pure tops on PlayStation, not a fanboy channel that talks or trashes Xbox. It is purely about PlayStation, the games. It's amazing content. If you have not seen it yet, I encourage you to go check it out. The link is going to be on it, especially to what I'm about to talk about. They pulled off something that even big time journalists and big time podcasts were not able to do. And that was actually get Shawn Layden to do an interview since retiring from PlayStation back in 2019. After 2019, he hasn't done an interview, hasn't been any article. And you're talking some of the big industries, IGN, GameIndustry, GameSpot, Sacred Symbols Podcast. You're talking about all the big kahunas are out there. He didn't do anything, right? But he showed up on Jay Barry and Persona Speaks podcast, the What's Up PlayStation podcast, right? How they were able to do it was they met him years ago at a PlayStation experience, right? And I guess he remembers them. And they had a good time chatting about games. So he had a little bit of inherent trust. So he was excited to be on their podcast. I highly encourage you to check it out. It's amazing. But the amazing part was and I know we're all going to see this. We had our Luke, I'm your father moment. That happened on the podcast. It just boggles my mind how this didn't blow up on the internet. It just shows you, and I'm going to talk about this. It just shows you there's an agenda, and people really don't really care about news and facts to come to the point. They only care about news and information that validates the point they already believe exists. right? Because we literally had our Luke, I'm your father moment. And what I'm talking about is this. One of the people that actually was saying, hey, we need to get rid of Jim Ryan was Jay Barry. He felt that Jim Ryan was ruining the PlayStation brand and that, putting games on PC and stuff like that, regardless how old, was damaging to the brand. So Jay Barry talks to Shawn Layden about this, about how he felt about Jim Ryan putting games on PC. Paraphrasing. But then Luke, I'm your father came out. And what I mean by that is Shawn Layden said, no, that was my decision. Shawn Layden made that decision, not Jim Ryan. Shawn Layden was the one that initiated to put PlayStation games on PC. It wasn't Jim Ryan. And it just blows my mind how that didn't just because that is the first factual time we have a rep, even though he's not part of Sony anymore, but we have confirmation of who did it. And here's the crazy part. He explained the why behind it. That's what blows my mind about the whole thing. We literally know the who and the why, and it's not going off anywhere on the internet. I don't understand how the What's Up podcast is not blowing up, because I seen other console-centric podcasts, we'll just leave the explanation like that, they blew up over lies. Oh, the blah, 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 blah podcast said that blah, 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 blah this. And it wasn't true. And it would just be all over the thing. We have the former CEO of PlayStation who admitted it was his decision to put games on PC, and he explained the why. Can we get a motherfucker to gain some traction? Because it's pretty important to know this if people are interested on whether or not what PlayStation is going to do. Because now we have a starting point. But no, maybe we need, I don't know, sometimes I think maybe PlayStation, we need to start getting the business of lying. We just make up mad shit. You just make up shit, random shit. Random shit that will never happen, and we just do it, and we just say we're just being positive on our platform. Because I guess that's what seems to work. I don't think actual facts and information works anymore. I think we just need to make stuff up that makes us feel good, and then everybody would just be down with us. I don't know. But anyway, Shawn Layden, and obviously I'm going to put the link to their interview in the description so you can see it. Great interview. He explained that he made that decision because he wanted to attempt to try to get gamers who are on the PC platform and don't own a PlayStation to see if they like these games, are they willing to come and buy a PlayStation 5 when the new games comes out, right? He thoroughly explained that simply advertising to the people who already are on PlayStation may increase sales within the ecosystem, right? Because the games are there, so you might attract more PlayStation gamers to buy the game, but you don't grow the PlayStation ecosystem. You're just talking to the people that's already there. He goes, how do you get people outside of the PlayStation ecosystem and dive right in? That's simply because they're playing on another platform. So by giving them a taste of these PlayStation 4 games, and they realize, man, this is a very good game, Horizon Zero Dawn is great, I guess God of War now, Days Gone, and other titles. PC gamers that never had a PlayStation and never bothered with it, but now that they're getting access to these games and they're playing it for themselves, and they're like, man, these are really good games. Now I'm starting to see why these games are good. Some of them are not going to wait 2, 3 years or 4 years to play these games. When the new Horizon Forbidden West, how many PC gamers played Horizon Zero Dawn for the first time, don't own a PlayStation, and they loved it? Horizon Forbidden West comes out in February. So now it's really, do you wait an undisclosed amount of time to play it if you really love the game? Or are you going to try to play it day one? Some, I'm not going to say all of them, some are going to be like, nah, I'm going to play this game day one. and they're going to get themselves a PlayStation 5. And then once they're in that PlayStation 5, they have access to more games, not on PC, and they're just going to play those games, right? And that's the whole trick. That is why he explained. So now we have some facts. The decision to put PC games on PlayStation was done by Shawn Layden, and he did it explicitly to try to entice gamers that do not play on PlayStation on PC to see if some of them will also play on PlayStation. He didn't mention anything specific of give up PC to play on PlayStation. He didn't say anything like that. He just wants them to get on PS5. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to give up PC gaming. So that's one important fact that's not being mentioned. But now you guys know. Everybody should know. If you're watching this video, you know. And I'm going to post a link to the podcast, and you can see it for yourself. He thoroughly explained it. And you'll see the Luke, I'm your father moment, right? The second part to this, which is fact, and it's just insane that it's not being talked about, it's partially talked about, but in a sneaky way. Jim Ryan had an interview with GameIndustry. And I'm going to post a link to them. Hold on. With, it's called Fireside Chat, right? So Jim Ryan had an interview. It's on YouTube. I will link it, but you're going to hear the audio, right? He had an interview, and there were a whole bunch of questions, right? Let me show you how bad misinformation is. Jim Ryan told a story of what happened 20 years ago when Ken Kutaragi worked with PlayStation. And this was around 2001. And Ken Kutaragi, in 2001 called Jim Ryan because he was in charge of Europe. He had to go fly in Japan. And Ken Kutaragi told him, I don't like how the European sector of, the business and PlayStation 2 is being handled. This is PlayStation 2 right in the beginning. You need to fix it. And then that's it, go away. And Jim Ryan's like, all right, flew all the way to Japan just to get a 5-minute conversation, fix your shit. So flew back all the way back to Europe, and the rest is history. Right? An article that says, Jim Ryan had to fly to Japan to see Ken Kutaragi to fix the PlayStation business. Do you realize how many dumbasses thought that was a recent thing? Do you want to know how many idiots think that it was recent? That Jim Ryan, as, the CEO, head of PlayStation, had to go to Japan because apparently, PlayStation model right now is bad. And how many people push that as a conversation point? Like, you would at least think the name Kutaragi, which hasn't been smoking in years, not since the PS3, that would have given him a clue. Man, this sounds like an old, article. They actually are pushing that. That's how, batshit crazy these dudes are. Right? But anyway, let me move on, right? So Jim Ryan had an interview, right? And I hope everything's all right up in here. Okay, so we're not down, right? Please tell me we're not down. Do we stop? Or are we good? Are we good, chat? Uh-oh. Somebody type something. Uh-oh. The fuck? It says that we're live here. Uh-oh. I think my stream went down. Did my stream go down? Alright, woo! Y'all scared me for a minute. God damn. Yo, I thought I was like, yo. Y'all crazy. Cause everything just stopped. Like y'all were talking, y'all were and then and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all ain't saying shit, bro. Like I need somebody every 5 minutes to type a 1 or something. Alright, I'm gonna keep it. Alright. Y'all were just chilling. I got it. Y'all were just laying back. Sipping your wine, sipping your Boone's Farm. Some of y'all sipping on that yak. I got it. I feel you. I appreciate that. Okay, good. All right. Good. All right. Sit back, relax, put on your beats. listen to the sermon. Got it. For a minute, I was nervous. I was like, yo, I'm looking out here like a dumbass. All right. So, Jim Ryan had an interview. Okay. In that interview, he did speak on his frustration that games aren't selling 100 million, 30 million, 50 million, whatever. Based on that quote or series of quote, everybody's using it and saying, hey, you see Jim Ryan's frustration, whatever. Oh, he's going to do day and date. He's going to do, PS Now day one, cloud, all that stuff. Yep, he's going to go in the direction of Microsoft because he's not happy how PlayStation 5 is doing. So the whole narrative is based on that quote. But once again, this is what's funny. In that same interview, he was literally asked by the reporter, the person interviewing him, how does he plan for growth? How does he plan to expand? And he answered it. I don't understand why the media, journalists, and even podcasts who are supposedly, we're just positive, we're not fanboy, blah, 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 all that bullshit. How come they're not actually taking all this information that are being told us? The Shawn Layden telling us he's the one that did it and telling us why. And the interviewer actually asking the question, and Jim Ryan answered how he plans to do it. So I'm going to play it so you can hear the audio. I'm going to put the link so you could actually see the interview. I even put the timestamp because if that's all you want to see from the conversation, I'll put the timestamp on so you can see directly. But now listen. This is the question, and this is Jim Ryan.
I see no reason why gaming shouldn't be as ubiquitous as music, movies, or TV shows. And if you think about that, the implications of that for the people who make games and the people who play games are potentially really amazing and really powerful.
Does anything need to happen to accelerate that expansion, do you think, to help reach new people? Or is it just naturally happening?
I think it's largely will happen organically. People like you, who started off with PlayStation 1 in the 1990s, aged, I don't know what it was.
You don't know.
But people who were maybe 18 in 1995, those people are now in their mid to late 40s.
Yeah.
And so many of them are still with us, and that will continue. Those people are going to carry on playing games, different sorts of games, different play patterns. But so that the passage of time is going to organically assist that ubiquity. And one of the things that I like about what we're doing is that we appear to be resonating extremely well with a very young audience at the same time, which is one of the reasons that I am really positive about PlayStation 5. But this isn't just a PlayStation phenomenon. It's an entertainment phenomenon. I also think technology will help, and I think this is an area where we are particularly well placed to enjoy, because I think as each generation of technology comes along, processing power increases, graphics power increases, which are, in the abstract, absolutely meaningless. But to the extent that they empower the art of storytelling, they empower the ability to portray character, to portray emotion, to portray personality, particularly the high-end gaming experiences are going to become more and more lifelike. They're going to become richer, more emotionally engaging. And I think that will lead to an increasing convergence with other forms of entertainment, particularly cinema, and I think that will accelerate this process of ubiquity.
Mm.
So you heard him. He only mentioned two things. Number one, the passage of time. As every generation of PlayStation is made, you're going to have, like me, I was a PlayStation 1 gamer, played obviously before PlayStation 1 came out. I've been gaming since, the ColecoVision NES. But the guys who've been the old crew, we still are here. But in particular to PlayStation, those who started on PlayStation 1, those who stayed gaming are still here. Those who started on PlayStation 2, still here. Those are PlayStation 3, and I think that's what slowed down PlayStation. Because a lot of guys left. Because of just how Sony handled PlayStation 3. The arrogancy, the price. Xbox 360 was a great alternate option. So they kind of like screwed that up. But they built it back up with PlayStation 4. And now a lot of the people that started playing PlayStation 4, they're on PlayStation 5. And he sees the passage of time. Then 2, he mentioned technology. But when he mentioned technology, he didn't mention cloud. He didn't mention PC. He particularly mentioned that as technology get better for these consoles, right? Processing power, graphics power, right? It allows the developers as artists and empowers them to create amazing content, right? The one thing about Jim Ryan, in that same interview, I suggest you watch the whole interview, right? But if that's the part you only want to watch, I might have a timestamp. But one of the questions asked, if he had to describe PlayStation, how would you describe it? His first answer was, well, number one, games. He straight up. That's why I say you need to watch the interview. He straight up said number one, games. That's PlayStation in a nutshell. Number one, games. Which is awesome, right? So he is a man that believes PlayStation is based on games. That is what PlayStation is. So it's amazing. But anyway, back to this. Back to the second point. Processing power, graphics power empowers the developers for richer storytelling, gameplay, all that stuff. And then he sees, because, and you could clearly see it, it converges almost into cinema and storytelling, right? Now you have more, how would you say, Hollywood is very interested in gaming. And they're very interested in making games and stuff like that. Actors are now more involved in gaming as ever before, right? When you rarely seen, A-level, A-list artists, right? But now you see Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk. Out of all the games he picked, it was that one. But you see what I'm saying? You see a lot of top-tier Hollywood talent in games now. Because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, bigger than Hollywood, and it reaches a huge audience. So to an actor, being in a game or being in a movie is the same thing. Huge budget, huge audience, in a big industry. And it gets your face out there, right? But Jim Ryan never talked about day and date on PC. He never talked about day and date on PS Now, never mentioned those stuff. So you heard what he said. Why aren't people talking on what he said specifically when the topic of what is the future of PlayStation 5 and how is Sony going to handle that? Well, you heard the man. When people wondering, why did Sony put their games on PC then? Well, Shawn Layden told you. He's the one that did it. But nobody wants to tie in those two pieces of information to at least make a better, reasonable guess on what Sony plans to do. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you got 3 groups that are salty as hell. I'm going to start with the least salty with the most salty. There's levels to this. Like my baby brother, Dark, there's levels to this. So I'm going to talk to the least saltiest of the group. And then I'm going to go with the most saltiest of the group. Right? The least saltiest, because I think majority of them pretty much moved on from it, but there's still a few lingering fanboys and, people are salty, is the Nintendo dudes. They're the least saltiest. But there's a few that are still there. Because they are not happy that Nintendo has been relegated to the mobile company or the handheld gaming thing. See, Nintendo used to be the powerhouse in the console space, in the living room. Because that's where the fight is at, the living room, right? They're not doing that no more. They moved on from that. Nintendo used to be cutting edge with graphics and gameplay, right? But Nintendo doesn't do that no more. Nintendo used to dominate third party. Nintendo don't do that no more. And it's all because of PlayStation. PlayStation knocked them out of that classic console, top tier living room gaming environment, right? Ain't about that life no more. They couldn't compete with PlayStation. So Nintendo decided, hey, we can't go head to head to PlayStation. We got to do things different. They first did the Wii, completely successful for them. Straight, new, unique game experience. But then when they tried something with the Wii U, got axed. Bombed. Like, no, nobody want this. So now they're with the Switch. They're back on top. But they're not really back on top in the main fight. A lot of people look at the Switch as a good secondary console, a good traveling device. It's looked at that. They don't look at it as the king of gaming right now. Even with its 90 million sales, 80 million sales, they don't look at Nintendo as the king of gaming, as the main huge driving force of the gaming right now, especially for next generation. Ain't it? Right? But that small group is still a little salty. Right? And they want the last thing that PlayStation 5 has. Right? And that's the exclusives. If they could push, and this idea of PS5 going day and day with PC, they could say they're the only platform that has exclusives. And that's what they want. Right? That's what that little group wants. So that's why they're not trying to hear all this information. They're just going to say, nah, PlayStation got no exclusives, blah, blah, blah. Nintendo's the only platform. That's what they want. So that's the least saltiest. The middle saltiest, believe it or not, the PC gamers. Which is, I find it odd. Because PC gaming is really about just having the performance, the freedom. You're able to make your game characters naked, all that weird shit, whatever. MMOs, that's what it is, right? But something happened at a certain point. And somebody on the Twitter Spaces, I forgot who the gentleman was, but he actually brought a good point up in a conversation. And he said, when it comes to big AAA games, right, that people talk about, PC hasn't been relevant in that conversation since Half-Life 2. And when he said that, I look back. I'm like, since Half-Life 2, what has been the big PC AAA exclusives? Similar to Half-Life 2 to compete with the Halos, God of War, and all this other stuff. And he was right. I can't. And chat, maybe you could correct me because I'm glad, we're live. Can you think of a big AAA PC game exclusive for PC that actually is like their version of PlayStation version of God of War or Xbox's Halo, Gears of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, shit like that, right? Because at first it was The Witcher. I would have said that. But the franchise is now on consoles. It went multi-plat day one. So it ain't The Witcher anymore. I remember when Witcher was only available on PC. It isn't that. It isn't that franchise. Right? I mean, they're going to make a StarCraft 4 or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But he made up a good point. When it comes to the battle of the big guns, PC don't have it no more. If anybody could correct me, I'm wrong, but he really was. I think Half-Life 2 was like the true biggest thing. And then Roblox, Roblox. But think about that, right? So because of that, half the battle is already won for them, which is Microsoft saying, hey, we're supporting PC day one. So PC gamers like, yo, we eating good. We getting all the Xbox games day one. Now, they just need PlayStation. They also want Nintendo too, right? But right now, they're focusing on PlayStation, right? They're like, yeah, we got to get this PlayStation games, right? Right? What's funny is, when the games are not on PlayStation, anybody want that. Nobody want that. But as soon as that game drops on PC, it skyrockets on the Steam charts. Armor Series? I heard of Armor Series, but the argument with Armor Series is I just heard that it's like the simulator of, military shooters. But not so much as the big guns. Like popular, I don't know. Maybe, I heard of the Armor Series, but I always saw the argument as, like, it's the simulator of war or some weird shit. I don't know. Right? Whatever. Right? Back to what I was saying. PC gamers. Oh, yeah, nobody wants PlayStation gamers. But as soon as that shit drops on PC, that shit's like number one on Steam charts. All of them. At $50 at that, too. 2-3-year-old games being sold for $50. I'm just saying. Right? So, there's that. But the biggest salt out of all of them is who these Xbox dudes. And this is not even a small group. This is like the majority of them, right? The majority of them. They are absolutely suffering on what happened with last gen with the Xbox One. To this day, They are traumatized over the Xbox One flopping. They cannot let that shit go. It hurts them to have seen Xbox, especially coming off the 360 era, when they were on their game, they were on their point. Aaron Greenberg out there, oh shit, Halo 3 outsold Uncharted, Infamous, and all these games combined. You know, Microsoft had these dudes playing Dance Central, you know, and all this weird stuff, and petting tigers with the camera, and they were doing the most, playing Uno, girls showing their breast out. It was wild on 360, right? It was popping though. Everybody was rocking to 360. They were on their game. They thought Xbox was gonna be like that forever. That the reign of PlayStation's over. Xbox is the best box, and you know, all that stuff. Then the unveiling happened. You know what I'm talking about. TV, sports. Woo! And then Microsoft said, we launching for $500. Because of a camera, which they said we can't remove. But we're not launching any games with it. And then some people were willing to accept it. The problem is, and like I said, I personally didn't care about it, but if you're going to sell a $500 console, you can't have games running at 720p and the $400 console is at 1080p. You can't do that. You can't have 720p gaming at $500. Even though the $500 is primarily because of the camera, because the camera was $150, so really the console was $350. That would have made more sense if they would have just launched the Xbox for $350 right from the get-go. Then maybe people would have understand. Like, yeah, it's a little bit weaker because it's $350 or whatever, or $300. But it was $500. And people were not trying to rationalize 220p at $500. People weren't trying to hear that. Gamers ain't trying to hear that. You know gamers will, any opportunity to thrash a company, they're going to take it. You ain't trying to hear that. And at that point, it's just set the trend, right? And then Microsoft had the ability to do something, right? Because PlayStation didn't really have a lot of games or a lot of big killer apps in the first half, like the first 2 years. They had some, but not a lot. And Microsoft had the ability to really gain momentum. But the big AAAs they pushed was shit like Rise and Dead Rising 3. The fuck? Like, this is $500. These aren't $500 games. Even something like Sunset Overdrive. You know, some people like it. I didn't really care for it. I played halfway and I couldn't finish it. I didn't really enjoy it. But I could see why people like it. But for $500? What? No. These aren't $500 games. And then Master Chief Collection came out. A disaster for like months. The first Halo didn't come out till like 2015. 2 years after launch. The first Gears of War didn't come out for 3 years. 3 years after launch? What? Whoa. Your best games like Quantum Break, where it's literally chapters of movies. Ooh, it was rough, man. It was rough. And they're feeling it to this day. Right? So Microsoft's rough gem with Xbox One led to this. But these salty Xbox dudes, they don't want to recognize it. They don't want to recognize that Microsoft doesn't have faith in their Xbox console as the only device to push for success. They need to go beyond the Xbox console. Because it's already proven they can't rely on it. Because they had 3 generations. The first Xbox only sold around 20-something million. The second Xbox, the 360, very successful. But again, it was around 80 million. They thought they were going to sell 100 million, but they didn't. And oddly enough, PlayStation 3 sold more. So in the end, they still ended up getting outsold, which is weird. And then they went back down on a down streak. First party game sales were down. Third party, they lost control. PlayStation 4 absorbed the majority stake. PlayStation 4 and PC, to be honest. They couldn't rely on the console. They weren't going to come back this gen with the same console strategy. They're not doing that. So they need day one PC. They need to expand to cloud gaming. They need to do these things. Right? But the Xbox fanatics, they don't want to admit it's a need for Microsoft, not necessarily vision of the future of the industry. But they want to claim that because it makes Microsoft look good. It makes them look like they're forward thinkers, vice desperate, or trying to fix a problem. You know, when you say, no, they're forward thinking, this is the future, this is how it is, then you can rewrite what actually happened. You can ignore and pretend the bad shit never happened, right? Shout out to Bobor Country. I hope I spelled your name right. I hope you pronounced your name right, but thank you so much. For the super chat, he said, people laugh when I say PlayStation is liable to lawsuits for their games going to PC because they promise exclusivity people are willing to pay. That's a hard one. I don't know. That's a hard one. I can't even get into the legal battle on that one. I don't think anyone's gonna care because have you seen so far? A lot of these games have been 3 years, 4 years removed. Don't really know. Don't really know if there's any litigation. I don't think you go back and say 3 years ago I bought this game on PlayStation because they told me it was exclusive, but now it's on PC. I don't think a judge is gonna be like, when did it go to PC? Or it went on PC. It's going to PC this January. And when did you buy the game? I bought the game 3 years ago. So when you bought it, was it exclusive to the platform? Well, yeah. And then that's... I mean, there could be... I don't know. There could be a whole legal mumble. But I don't think it's even worth it on that one. But back to the salty guys. Legitimizing this as an idea and industry forward doesn't make... It helps soften the blow of the Xbox One gen. But here's the problem. In order for this to be an industry move, it has to be someone other than Microsoft to also adopt this. Like somebody else has to co-sign it. They need a co-signer on this BS. And that co-signer, they're looking at PlayStation. They're looking at PlayStation to announce day and date on PC. They're looking at PlayStation to put their games on PS Now day one. Because then that validates Microsoft move as an industry pushing move that they saw first. Vice, yeah, we fucked up. We don't trust our console no more. This is where we're going because we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket, and that basket being an Xbox console. They don't want to admit that. So they're not going to say that. They're going to push this narrative of pushing the industry. Microsoft's a visionary. Sony's going to catch up. And they need Sony to catch up. That's what they're trying to do. Right? And that's why this whole thing. That's why Shawn Layden. And the crazy part is, it's also like journalists that are kind of, they seem like influencers for Xbox. They're ignoring this. You would think journalists will be all over the Shawn Layden interview and that they will talk about it in their podcast and they will break it down. That they'd be like, wow, so this is why Sony is doing the things they're doing. Because Shawn Layden said they're trying to get PC gamers onto the platform. But they're not having that discussion. The segment where Jim Ryan actually explained passage of time and the CPU, GPU performance that will allow creativity of games. But no, they're not talking about that. No one wants to mention that. Because it doesn't fit their narrative. They already have their mindset on something. So they're only going to focus on the information that helps them push what they already feel is what's happening. And that's pretty much it. That's my talk. Know some information. You know, I'm going to edit the stuff. I'm going to put the links to the videos if you haven't seen it. But my stance, Sony will continue to put PlayStation 4 games and maybe some legacy PlayStation 3 games, 2 games, remasters from the PlayStation 2 library, PlayStation 3 library, who knows. But I think Sony is hell-bent on intent on taking these classic games, catalog games, put them on PC, get PC gamers to be excited, and some of them will get a PS5. PS5 right now is killing it. It is selling at such a rapid rate beyond any console that has been made. Even more than when the Switch was first released. Definitely more than the PS4. It's setting the records for most consoles sold. MPD already showed that it's the 2021 leading console in dollar sales. So it's already beating out Switch in that respect. November is going to be crazy. If Sony is able to supply insane amount of consoles, it could be a record set in November for PlayStation could be a record-setting November in gaming. It's insane. And I guarantee nobody in PlayStation is trying to ruin that momentum. They're not stupid. They know exclusive sales consoles. They know it's a great advertisement point to have these things. Jim Ryan's not an idiot. You hear him, he's a smart dude. In fact, this is Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan was the one that got and orchestrated, because again, he was in charge of Europe, right? That was his region. You know, everybody had their region. I think Trenton was in charge of North America. Then you have somebody up in Japan. PlayStation's number one region in the world is Europe, not America. More PlayStation consoles and more PlayStation games are sold in Europe compared to North America. Easily. Europe is the number one region for the PlayStation brand by far. And Jim Ryan made that happen. That's the dude who's in charge of PlayStation overall. I'm just saying. And with that, this is your boy Porter Rock 77. Hey, sorry to keep y'all up late, but I hope this Talk That Talk was helpful. I'm out of here. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe, stick around. I got a podcast every Tuesday, and I promise it's a lot earlier. It's 9 p.m. Eastern, not 12. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And I got the crew. I got Optimus Code. I got Jay Barry. I got Craig, the voice of Xbox. You know what I'm saying? I got the real J-Dub. Come through. Enjoy it. Hit the like button onto this, and I'm out. You know what I'm saying? What time is it? It's only 10 o'clock for me, but it's like 1 something for you. You know? But I hope you enjoyed this, right? But again, new to the channel, subscribe. Stick around. Hit the like button on your way out. Truly appreciate it. You guys have a good night. You know? Enjoy your weekend. Peace.